everyone, and thank you for being here. I hope everyone's doing well. Just so everyone knows, last night I actually did a live stream about this topic. However, something messed up with my stream. It just abruptly ended. There wasn't that many people in there last night, really, so I decided to go ahead and do this live stream again, and hopefully we can get some more people in here today with a little bit of a advance notice. Not too much, but at least there's a little bit instead of me just going live. So hey Mark, hey New Fish. I don't know why your comments are not showing up on the chat in my YouTube studio, so that's weird. I don't get it. I might have to figure this out because that's going to be a problem. I might have to restart. I don't know what's going on. That's weird. Because it says that there's 4 viewers on my phone and then it says there's 13 on my computer. So I wonder if I did like a double stream or something. Oh man. All right. Well, I'm really confused right now. Because why can I see you guys in the chat on my phone? Did I do a double stream? No, I didn't. Okay, I see Sandra's comment. Hi, Sandra. But I don't know why I don't see your chat. Okay, it doesn't matter. I guess I'll just look at my phone, or this is weird. All right. So again, hello everyone. That was weird. Hey Stephanie. So I want to talk a little bit, like the title says today, about what a real life investigation should look like compared to a theatrical one, like the Chris Watts case. I know that a lot of people think that it's weird that there was so much documentation, and you know, they've mentioned before how it looks very theatrical, and if it looks theatrical, it's probably because it is. But instead of me just saying that, I'm going to go to talk about the difference between what, like I said, a real live investigation should look like and, of course, a theatrical one. So, and I also wanted to, in the future, coming up, I wanted to get some screenshots for you guys, or some clips from a couple of shows that I watched, like on Discovery ID, and I'm sure that you guys are familiar with them as well, especially if you like true crime. Now there's only some very, very few shows that I watch on television. I hardly watch any television. I don't recommend anyone watching television. Just like our parents used to say, television rots your brain. I mean, it really, really does rot your brain, especially with all the crazy like reality show, television shows and stuff. They definitely do, and it's a huge distraction from what's really going on in the world. But so there's a couple of shows like on Discovery ID, and those crime channel, true crime channel shows that I do watch. Now, in my opinion, those are going to be the closest thing you're going to get to actual real life investigations. As far as like being on television, like I used to watch the Forensic Files, but there's 2 shows in particular that I do watch, and one of them is called The Murder Tapes. I probably should stall a little bit to give people a chance to get in here, but hey, Irene. But I just don't want to waste any more time, especially since I don't know what's going on with my stream. I don't know why I can't see the chat on YouTube, but there's one called The Murder Tapes, and when I watch that show, I do not see the same thing that I see in the Watts body cam footage. I see something completely different. I see, and to me that's kind of a big deal. Now, the murder tapes, if you're not familiar with it, is on Discovery ID, I believe. It's real life investigations, real murders, real homicides that happen, and these are the cases that don't get that mainstream media high profile attention that these cases I'm trying to expose get. And like I said before, there's a reason why certain cases get so much media attention over all the other murder cases that happen and homicide cases that happen, or missing children or women that go missing. Hey, Kyla. So like I said, there's a reason why they get so much mainstream media attention over others, and that's what I'm kind of trying to expose, and as to why they do. So the murder tapes, like I said, are real life investigations, real homicides, and it shows the body cam footage from the moment. It usually starts off with a 911 phone call of whoever finds the body, or hears the gunshots, or whatever. And then it will proceed into the initial, or the first responders, or the first police officer that shows up to the crime scene. And they'll show their body cam footage, and and then they'll show the actual investigation. There'll be interviews from the police officers that worked on the cases, and then there'll be sometimes interviews from the victims' family members. And it also shows interrogation tapes and so on and so forth. So like I said, that's going to be your closest you're going to get to knowing what a real life investigation looks like if you're just a regular person and you're not a police officer or whatever. Again, it is still on television, but like I said, that's the closest you're going to get. So when I'm watching those television shows, and there's another one, it's called See No Evil. I might not get into that one today, but the See No Evil one is actually how they solve crimes by video camera footage. So like CCTV cameras, neighborhood surveillance cameras, business cameras, mall footage, so whatever. And they'll actually be able to, do the investigation and solve it through cameras. And it's pretty interesting that we had hardly any camera footage with all the cameras that are around. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. We didn't have any camera footage, and if we did, it was just Nate's footage, and it was only the footage that they wanted us to see. So like Shanann coming home, Nate's camera footage. No, none of the other neighbors had cameras, which is very convenient. No cameras at Survey 319. They didn't even bother to get the CCTV footage on the street cameras to prove or to show us or to confirm that Christopher Watts even went to Survey 319. We're just supposed to believe it. We're just supposed to believe the narrative. There was no CCTV footage or any camera footage from any of, not that they probably even tried, because they don't need to do that, but in a real life investigation, you would think that the police would go and maybe try to confirm more Nicole Kessinger's alibi. And did she really go home at that time? Was she there at that time? In her apartment? They never even bothered to search her apartment, to confiscate her laptop or anything like that. It's just, there's so much missing evidence and investigative work in the Chris Watts case, even though there was a lot of, or what seems like a lot of information released, because we do have all that body cam footage. We have all of Shanann's Facebook and the videos with her and Chris and the girls, but I'm just not seeing what we should see from an actual real life investigation. There's just so much missing evidence, and with how they're trying to portray like this transparency, like by releasing the body cam footage and whatnot, like why are we not seeing more? Why did they cherry pick so much information? Or the information that they only, show us what they want us to see and what really pushes that narrative. Yeah, and Survey 319 was demolished, and that's another one of those, and I'm going to do a live stream about this too. That's another one of those like red flags and those characteristics that you want to look out for in future cases, especially the ones that get that high profile mainstream media attention that gains that widespread attention within just days. one of the red flags that another one of those red flags you're going to want to look out for is destruction of evidence, missing evidence, tainted evidence. So like with Chris Watts, you had all those people walk into the house. You had Chris, you had Nicole Atkinson, you had Madison Atkinson, you had Nicholas Atkinson, you had news reporters, you had Nick and Amanda Thayer, you had Nate, all tainting that potential crime scene. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit here. But again, that's one of those things where why was Survey 3119 demolished when it that's potential evidence still left there, and it wasn't shortly, too long after the case it was over, right, or closed. But I also believe there's another reason for just demolishing it as well. I believe that Survey 319 was decommissioned way before this case even came out. I've been saying that for a while. I've also been saying that there was no oil in those tanks, and no oil was removed, nor were any children removed. And I might get into that whole picture with the hazmat crew and stuff here in a little bit, but I want to try not to get too much off track. Yeah, and how can they not tell the difference between a toddler and an adolescent? Yeah, or not having Sandy or Frank or anybody come out to identify the bodies. Sandy confirmed Shanann and the girls over the phone. Like, that's just not, it's not real life. That's not how things are done. Regardless if all the evidence leads back to Chris, and just because it was at Survey 319, it doesn't, you can't just go by someone saying identifying, or a family member identifying their family members over the phone by saying, oh, was the woman you found in the grave, was she beautiful, and did she have dark hair? And the officer goes, yes. And then Sandy goes, oh, that's definitely my daughter. You know how many beautiful brunette haired women are out there? Regardless, again, if it leads to, oh, well, all the evidence pointed to Chris, and I mean, who else would it be? But it doesn't matter. You still have to do your actual investigative police work and confirm it the professional way that you're supposed to do an investigation. You don't confirm bodies over the phone. You would have to fly out. You would have to go to the coroner, and you would have to confirm or use some sort of DNA at that point or whatever. Not just was she wearing a pull-up? Well, it must be Cece. That's just not how investigations are done, and it's very surprising to me that more people don't question stuff like that. But so, the murder tapes are and the See No Evil, again, they're on Discovery ID, and I wish I could play the clips for you guys, but I can't. I mean, I'll probably just get a copyright claim, but I really don't want to risk it. And I do want to try to, from here on out, show you guys as much as I can as possible to provide some evidence for what I'm saying instead of me just rambling. And hey, Swamp Lover, thank you for putting my DLive link. So instead of me just rambling and saying this is what this is, or these are these red flags, but it makes it very difficult for me on YouTube and for other, truthers, if you want to call them out there, that are exposing psyops and orchestrated events, because that's just so frowned upon on YouTube, on this platform. You're walking on eggshells anytime you mention any of these school shootings, any of these terrorist attacks, the mass shootings. You're just walking on eggshells, and you're potentially risking getting a strike on your channel and just one step closer to getting your channel taken down. And I know that a lot of people in the true crime community don't really understand that maybe as much, because it's, you're thinking it's just true crime, but I'm not really, I guess you could call me, I'm not like a true crimer. Is that a word? I'm exposing some of these true crime cases, especially the high profile ones, for being orchestrated. Hopefully we're still live. I don't know if we're still live. It said I lost internet connection, so. Okay, I think we're still live. This is being weird today. Okay, sorry about that. So, I'm, I'm doing something, I'm not following the narrative of these true crime cases. I'm going against the official narrative, and I'm exposing them, or trying to expose them for what they really are. And which, in my opinion, is are orchestrated to push multiple agendas. So when I get some skeptics say, well, why can't you just say your theory? Why can't you answer certain questions? I mean, that's the reason I have been more transparent, especially over the last few months, because I just got so frustrated and I got tired of changing my words around. And so I have been more transparent in my theories. But there's still some things that I can't discuss, or I risk getting my channel taken down. And I just don't want that to happen. So I want to kind of try to stay on track here. So with these, when I watch the show, the murder tapes, I'm not seeing the same thing that I see when I watch this Chris Watts body camera footage. Okay. And one of the biggest things that I notice with the show, hey Elaine, one thing I noticed with the show is that the majority of people, now not all of them are going to have their faces blurred out, and there's different reasons for that, I'm sure, but the majority of the people in these shows do have their faces blurred out, especially the victim's girlfriend, who probably gave a confession, which is why Nicole Kessinger's face should have been blurred out, and her information should have been protected. And it'll say at the beginning of the show too that some of the names will be changed to protect certain people that were involved in the case. That's what you do in an actual investigation. And one of my biggest problems I have with the Chris Watts case is the fact that no one's personal information was protected. Why? Especially not just, you have Nicole Kessinger being a big one, all of the co-workers who gave interviews, the neighbors in the Watts neighborhood, right? They were interviewed when they were trying to find Shanann. And Shanann's friends, Lauren Conrad, Nicole Atkinson, and specifically Madison Atkinson and Nicholas Atkinson. Those two were minors at the time, and obviously Madison still is, but Nicholas Atkinson was still a minor at the time. Why was their personal information not protected? Why were their faces not blurred out on the camera? And all of that discovery, if you're talking about a quadruple supposedly homicide, why was no one's personal information protected? These people, if this is a real life case, these people would have to probably move, because there's crazy people out there that want to contact all these people, get their interviews, the news outlets, the people on social media reaching out to all the families and the friends, change their phone numbers. We're talking about the lives of people, just being released to millions of people. And when I see that to me, that is a huge red flag. And I'm very surprised that more people are not questioning the fact that no one's personal information in this case was protected. Hey, Cecile. Yeah, definitely the Gabby case, Elaine, for sure. That was immediately, I could tell on that one. So I definitely agree. But in my opinion, the reason why no one's personal information was protected or redacted is because there's no threat to protect them from. In real life, you would want to protect the people involved in the case, and especially people that are interviewed or that testify, in a trial. And if we're led to believe that Chris Watts is this horrible, just monster who murdered his entire family, that the narrative is wanting us to believe, you don't think, we've heard the stories about mobsters in prison that are finding ways out to the outside world to take people out that put them behind bars for the rest of their lives. I mean, we're not, Chris Watts is not a mobster, but the narrative still has led us to believe that this guy is a cold-blooded, calculated killer, right? So if he's that dangerous of a person, and why are no one in the case protected? Like they're saying, oh well, Lauren Conrad, she gave a interview. Troy McCoy gave an interview. So if this cold-blooded killer finds out that any of his coworkers or anything like that, or any of Shanann's friends or coworkers, if they could have possibly been the reason why he's behind bars now, like obviously he confessed, he's an idiot. But I'm just trying to make a point as to why people's or individuals' personal information is protected, and especially in homicide cases and murder cases. Because when you're dealing stuff like that, and you just, number one, you don't want to release individuals' personal information to millions of people. You just don't. Even though you can find a lot of the information. But if they didn't release their names to us, we wouldn't be able to go and research Nicole Kessinger and Lauren Conrad and Nicole Atkinson and Troy McCoy and try to figure out if they're suspects in the murder and if they had anything nefarious to do with it or whatever. If they had redacted the personal information like they're supposed to in an actual discovery or an investigative report, what would we have to bury our noses in with the discovery? What would social media or anybody have? What rabbit holes would we have to go down? We wouldn't. We would have a 1980 page discovery full of crap, useless information. All of that information in the discovery is useless in an investigation. It really is. And it's cherry picked beyond belief. If they had redacted the information like they're supposed to, what would we have to research for over 3 years now? We would have nothing. But that's how it's supposed to be. Go and look up on that, if you can find on, what is that website? Document Cloud, right? I looked up several Colorado cases, homicide cases, and 90, I don't know about 90%, but the majority, all you're going to see on that is, hey Adam, is black bars, because everyone's that's involved in the case who had anything to do with it, or anybody that was interviewed or testified or anything like that, their personal information is protected. Why was no one's personal information in the Watts case protected? And then it wasn't until 2 years later they started to go into that document cloud, and I even said it months before that they were going to start doing that. Hey Nikki, they were going to start redacting that information to save their asses, because now that their motives are done, the case is out, they're going in there and they're slowly taking out information and redacting certain things. And I called that months prior to it, because I've seen it happen before. So why are they going in 2 years later and redacting this information when all of it should have been redacted in the first place? The only one who should not have, the only ones who should have their information released is if you're the perpetrator, you're the killer, and you were charged and you're incarcerated. It doesn't matter because you're incarcerated. Or if the murderer committed suicide, right? Then they can release his information because he's not here anymore. It's not going to hurt him. No one's going to steal his identity. He's gone. And the victims, because they're no longer on this earth. There's nothing to protect them from because they're supposed to be deceased, right? But Nicole Kessinger's name should have been changed. Anybody else, so if they're not going to redact it, then Nicole Atkinson's name should have been changed to protect her. Madison Atkinson, the fact that the minors in this case did not have their personal information redacted or their faces protected on the body cam footage is a huge deal. And I'm very, again, surprised that not more creators and more people are not questioning the fact why no one's personal information was protected. So when I watch these shows, and I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with my chat. I have to keep looking down at my phone. So if I do miss any comments and whatnot, And yeah, Stephanie, most will have like minimum like 20,000 pages. And I've heard people say, well, it's redacted, right? They redacted the information. Like, if you're going to be transparent, I want to see it all. Don't cherry pick information in this case for me that fits your narrative, Frederick Police Department, CBI, right? I want to see all of it. You guys don't bother to redact the information in the first place for any of the parties involved. So what are you redacting? I don't care if it was only a 3-month investigation because Chris Watts pled guilty or confessed, and you don't end an investigation simply because somebody confesses. That's not the way it works. You have to continue out your investigation and make sure that no other parties were involved. And we didn't even see Nicole Kessinger investigated. It's just not real life. That's not how investigations work. And again, I'm very surprised that more people do not question that. And I know a lot of people in the true crime community do question that and have questioned the fact that Nicole Kessinger was not investigated. But I think we have to look at it from a different angle. It's not to just a cover up, or that somebody at Anadarko is covering up for Nicole Kessinger. No, it's so movie-like and complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It's actually really quite simple. But I was going to try to compile some, some clips or screenshots or some clips from the murder tapes and from See No Evil, and play them on the live stream. But again, I don't want to really risk getting any more copyright claims, especially now that the channel's monetized and with the memberships and whatnot. So I and I do like to provide this information for you guys so that you don't have to do the research yourself, but that kind of defeats the purpose of my whole motto. It's like, don't believe anyone, think for yourself and do your own research. But I still like to do it because I know a lot of you guys are busy. You guys do have jobs. You guys have families to take care of. And so it's important to me to provide sources for what I'm saying. I think that's important. And that's why in my last live stream, I wanted to show that documentation of that Smith Modernization Act of 2012. Instead of me just continually talk about it, I wanted to show you guys that other people are also talking about this act and exposing it for what it is. But they're doing more of like the other things, the more government stuff, as far as like the school shootings, the mass shootings, the Capitol riots, just you name it, the virus. People are all doing that. I'm focused on true crime, or I should say fake crime, in my opinion. Now, again, I have my skeptics, and now that I mentioned the fake crime stuff, I have my skeptics that like to just not listen to a word I say. They like to hear, it's one ear and out the other. It doesn't matter what I say. And even if they actually listen to what I say and they listen to my live streams, they would know that I have never once said that murder is not real. That is absolutely 100% ridiculous. And I have this same person that has said that to me multiple times. And every single time I clarify to this person, I have never once said that murder is not real. That is absolutely 100% ridiculous. Murder is 100% real. It happens every single day, and never once did I say that 9/11 wasn't real. Never once did I say that nobody died at 9/11. I have never once said that. I said that 9/11 was very real and that people did indeed die, many people. What I have said is that I do not believe the official narrative coming from NIST and our government, and that there are many red flags with 9/11. But never once have I said that nobody died. People do and indeed die in false flags. But there's a difference between psyops and false flags. False flags, people do die. Psyops are simply orchestrated to push motives and, to sway opinions of the public and pull at heartstrings and emotions and just many other reasons and motives behind it. So when I say fake crime, I don't mean that nobody, Haven Cena, I'm not saying that nobody gets murdered and that murder is not real. I'm saying that there are these specific cases that seem to get so much mainstream media attention, and that there are reasons for it. Over all of the other homicide cases, all of the other mainstream cases, all of the other like ones that don't get the mainstream media attention. Oh, I did. Yes, Swamp Lover. Hey, you were kind of MIA for a while, so not my fault. But it's really frustrating that I can't see my chat in my my YouTube studio. But again, I'm not ignoring anyone. If anyone comes in and I do not say hello, I do apologize. So while I talk more a little bit about this show, this murder tape show, in comparison, actually, before I get into that, I'm sorry. So I want to give you guys receipts. I want to back up what I'm saying. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, it's very difficult for me to play, certain videos and talk about certain things on this platform because you're just not allowed to. There are certain individuals' names like Ole Damengard that I am nervous to mention, or David Icke, simply because those two individuals are shadow banned from this platform. And they had over 1 million subscribers. And YouTube banned them for speaking out about the same things that I'm speaking out about. So I just really don't want to risk getting my channel taken down. And that's why I encourage you guys to go over to DLive, because on DLive, I can stream Ole Damengard presentations or conferences. I can stream David Icke, where they are experts and that I have learned this information from, that I'm now like telling you guys, informing you guys about. So it's important that you guys see that there's other people and other creators that are experts on these. That I'm not an expert, I've just learned over the years from experts. But I want you guys to see that there's other people that are talking about the same things that I'm talking about. Like the Smith-Mundt Act, like the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution, like the symbolism. There's so many other people that are exposing it, but I just simply can't do it on here. And I know that it's kind of a pain in the ass to like sign up for another platform, but if you really truly want to know the truth about these cases, and that's my way to show you guys that I'm not just the only one talking about this, and I'm not just making stuff up. I want to give you guys sources, but on YouTube, it's very, very difficult. So that's why I encourage you guys to go over to DLive. And it only takes a couple minutes to sign up. But like I said, if you guys want to see and know the truth about these cases, and if you don't want to be duped anymore, then I highly encourage you to go to DLive. And I play different stuff like that all the time. Because at DLive, it's less censored. You don't have to worry so much about copyright infringement. There's ways around it that's easier. And getting strikes and whatnot, or banned, or my streams taken down on DLive. So, I know that my DLive link will come up, and I know Swamp Lover has been putting it in the chat for me. So thank you, Swamp Lover. So again, I do highly encourage you guys to go over there. So while I talk a little bit about these murder tapes, I'm gonna just play the body cam footage. I'm not gonna play any sound, but I would kind of want to give you guys a visual. But like I said, I did want to compile the information for you, but instead I need you guys to, I can tell you about this information. And if you don't want to go to DLive, then you're going to have to at some point do your own research on a lot of this stuff. But like I said, I will try to do the best I can to provide as much as, receipts and back up what I'm saying and evidence to what I'm saying. So your homework is, and I know that some people don't have cable television or satellite TV, but you can find a lot of the episodes on YouTube, even though I don't understand that. But not a lot of them, but there's a couple of them. If you just go to Google and you put in murder tapes, there's a few that come up. Not all of them, but I highly encourage you guys. This is your homework. Teacher Think is giving you guys homework. Go and watch the murder tapes. And you guys have seen these Chris Watts body cam footage many, many times. Play them side by side if you need to. But I know that you guys have them burned into your brain because we've seen them so often. But And that's your homework. And I want you to really like just and try not to think with emotions, and just, even if you don't play it with sound, do a side by side comparison, and just look at the difference between the murder tapes and the Chris Watts body cam footage. And you're gonna like start to think like, okay, why does the Chris Watts footage look so theatrical compared to real life investigations that don't make it to the main headlines and aren't all over social, or not all over the news, and every news outlet is not covering it. These are actual real life cases. Okay? And like I said at the beginning of the stream, they're the closest thing you're gonna get to being a part of the actual investigation. So while I'm talking a little bit, like some examples, I'm just going to play the body cam footage so that you guys can kind of get it, like, obviously a visual, and when I compare it to the murder tapes. So one of the first episodes I watched, it's season 2. Let me look it up real quick because this is an important one. Let me look here. Season 2, episode 4 is called Fire in the Desert. Now,
how you guys doing?
it has this, it starts off with the brother
How you been? Here, Nicole?
worried about his sister because that he talks to every single day on the phone. He has not heard from her in a couple days, right? So he calls in a welfare check. Now, this seems more realistic to me than, I gotta pull my chat back up. Sorry, guys. This is more, hey, Christy, this is more realistic to me. This man has not heard from his sister in a couple days. So he finally calls in a welfare check. When you call in a welfare check, and it might, I'm not a detective, I'm not an expert in it, but when you call in a welfare check, you genuinely have to have a legitimate reason to call in and to think that something is wrong, right? So I'm not seeing on the show this guy calling the police because he's worried about his sister because he hasn't spoken with her in a couple hours after seeing her. If you think about it, Shanann was pregnant. She was, this is what the narrative tells us, right? She was pregnant. She was upset because she was having issues in her marriage or with her husband. She was tired because she just came home from a trip from Arizona at 2 a.m. And only a couple hours later, Nicole Atkinson is calling in a welfare check. I don't care if you're a small city. I don't care if these police officers are bored. It's resources that they don't want to use, and it's money that they're spending, right? Taxpayer money. So, and you're taking away resources from actual investigation. So you literally have to have a legitimate reason for why you're calling in a welfare check. Like, I can only imagine. I'd probably get in trouble for doing this, but I would like to test it. I would like to call the Phoenix Police Department and say, hey, I'm worried about so-and-so. I have not spoke with them I just dropped them off at 2 a.m. I have not heard from them in a couple hours. I'm worried because she's diabetic or whoever, they would probably, hey, Round and Round, they would probably laugh at me. They would probably say, oh, okay, so your friend's pregnant. She just flew in. She's exhausted. She's got some ailments, but but you just saw her a couple hours ago. They would probably say, okay, call us back in 24 hours if she's not responded by at that point or something. Like, it's just, if they went to do welfare checks every single time a mother lost sight of her child, or if a husband didn't talk to his wife for a couple hours, like, that would be ridiculous. I mean, do you know how many times that happens? How many times a child, and then they end up finding them 30 minutes later or an hour later because they wandered off to the neighbor's house, whatever. Again, you have to have a really good reason as to why you believe that your loved one is in danger. So in this episode, again, he calls because he hasn't spoke with his sister. They in a few days, mind you, he calls in the welfare check. A police officer shows up, and you see on the body cam footage, hey Shan, you see on the body cam footage, the brother walks up, and then the neighbor, who is a good friend of the sister, walks up. And he's kind of gets a briefing, what's going on. Well, again, I haven't talked to my sister in a few days. She's kind of like a hermit. She's always home. She's not answering her door or whatever. We're worried about her. So what the police officer does is he starts to do what Coonrod does, right? He goes and does knocks on the door. No one answers, goes around, goes to the back. He goes to the back and he notices that the dogs run out. The woman's dogs, and that the back sliding door is open. Now, mind you, yes. The Watts home was secured. And I get that, right? Like, it didn't see any forced entry. There wasn't a window broken. It didn't look like there was a robbery. Totally understandable. But this is still pretty much the same scenario. So the neighbor who is friends with the sister, or the woman who's missing, I should say. I don't want to confuse you guys here. I'm not the best with telling stories here. She actually follows the police officer to the backyard. She then proceeds to try to walk into the home to look for her friend. And that's where the officer says, ma'am, please step back from the sliding door. I don't want you going in that house. And she goes, well, she's my friend. I'm worried about her. And he goes, I understand that, but I don't know what I'm going to be walking into in that house. There could still be someone in there. God forbid, she could be deceased in there. It could be a potential crime scene, right? And we just don't know what we're walking into. The perpetrator could still be in there, whatever. The killer, you just don't know. Yes, at that time, it's just a welfare check. And so you just, as a police officer, you don't know the dangers you could be walking into. So he tells her, please don't go in the house. Go back to the front of the house. Now, he's getting a little bit worried here because the back door is open. Why is the back door open? Why are the dogs running out? Where's the sister that's missing? Supposedly, that's not responding. So what he does is he calls for backup. Because again, it's about his safety, one, but also civilian safety. That's why he did not let the neighbor into the house. And he also has to look out for himself because he doesn't know what he's walking into, especially if looks like there might be something nefarious going on with the back door open. Calls for backup, waits for backup to get there. They both go inside wearing gloves, mind you, both wearing gloves, because they have to consider all possibilities. So the fact that Coonrod walks into this house with Nicole Atkinson, Madison Atkinson, Nicholas Atkinson, Chris Watts, just because the door is locked, and all the windows are closed and it doesn't look like a break-in, how do we know? How did Coonrod not know that someone could have potentially made their way in? Maybe they knocked on the door. Shanann answered the door, pushed their way inside, locked the door behind them, and is now holding Shanann and the girls captive. How do we know? How does Coonrod not know that? How does he so again, they have to look out for their own safety as well as others. And just because it's all locked and it looks all fine and no one's responding, it doesn't mean that there's not some sort of danger in that house. Okay? So that's why in the when I see these the TV show and I'm thinking about the Watts case, I'm going, why is it not matching? Why is this? And you don't even have to be a detective to know, it's just common sense, right? You just don't walk into somewhere that you just don't know what you're walking into. That's crazy. So he calls for the backup. Like I said, they go in, their guns are drawn. They have gloves on because even though, and I hear this a lot, I hear, well, Shanann and the girls were just missing at that time. So that's why they weren't wearing gloves. And that's why, it wasn't taped or whatever. But you, as a police officer, you have to think that every possible scenario. So it could potentially become a crime scene. A missing person could potentially become a murder case. But we're just not seeing that in the Watts case. Why aren't we seeing that? Hey, Simba. So why aren't we seeing that kind of like protocol? Instead, Coonrod doesn't say, no, Chris, no, Nicole, nobody, I don't want anybody going in that house. I don't know what we could possibly be walking into, right? Instead, he goes, hey, come on inside, everybody. Come on in, little Madison Atkinson. Like, can you imagine? And Coonrod, and it boggles my mind that nobody questions this. Coonrod doesn't even bother to check every single room. He doesn't even, I think it takes him like 10 minutes just to go upstairs. He doesn't even go in the master bedroom until much, much later. Like, when you go in a house, when I'm looking at this episode that I'm referring to about this welfare check, they literally check every single room and clear every single room to make sure that there is no threat to anyone in that house. Again, I don't care if all the doors are locked. That means nothing. Okay? Or I don't care if there's no sign of a break-in. That means nothing to me. As a police officer, you go in there and you clear every room to make sure that there is no threat to anybody's safety. And you also prepare yourself and you don't try to taint any evidence or potential evidence that you may find. Okay? So why is it that everybody was invited to come into the house? Why was Madison Atkinson allowed to wander upstairs into the playroom? Coonrod didn't check the playroom. You think we're going to like, oh, okay, well, Nicholas Atkinson went up there and Chris went up there and he checked and it's clear. No, that's just not real life, you guys. That's not how shit happens. This is theater that we're watching right now on the Watts case. Okay. Right. 100% theater.
They're saying she is diabetic. I don't want her. She's upstairs and can't respond.
Yeah, never check the attic. Exactly. I didn't even know that they had an attic until then. Till much later because they didn't check it. But so it's very telling to me when I see two completely different scenarios going on here. And it's still very, very similar. We're talking about a welfare check, but I want to compare these to you guys so that you guys can kind of like see what I'm talking about here. So again, the fact that everyone was allowed to walk through there, Coonrod didn't clear the rooms. God forbid Madison Atkinson goes up into that playroom and Shanann and the girls are dead. Can you imagine how horrific that would be? And not only horrific for Madison Atkinson, but or anybody for that matter. But she was the one that went into the playroom, so I'm using it as an example. But now a lot of that evidence could be tainted because you have multiple people walking around that house, touching pillows, lifting up things, touching the door. Like, it's just not realistic. It's not. Coonrod had no idea what kind of potential. It doesn't matter the scenario because anything is possible. So the police officers get into that house. They do it. Whatever. Nothing's out of the ordinary. She's just missing still. Just like Shanann and the girls. Okay? There's no dead body there. There's no blood. She's just missing. But yet, these police officers are still taking precautions and, considering that it could potentially have evidence or be a crime scene. But we don't see that in the Watts case. We see people walking up and down the stairs and tainting potential evidence. Why? Because it's theatrical. It is theater. It's not real life. But the majority of people will never question it. They will think, oh, it's on police government body camera footage, so it must be 100% real. No, it's not. You're watching a movie unfold. That's why so much information was released, in order to grasp the attention of millions of people. And that's what it did. That is the purpose of it. That's why no one's Faces are blurred out. That's why no one, and when there's a lot of times on these episodes, like not everyone's faces will be blurred out all the time, but I'm sure there's specific reasons for that. Maybe they did agree to it, but can you think that every single person in the Watts case agreed to have their faces shown, their personal information shown to millions of people? The neighbors' kids, they're minors, their faces weren't blurred out. I see kids in this show, in the murder tape show, their faces being blurred out because they are minors, because they have to be protected. When they go into the houses, there's another episode, and I'll get back to this other episode, but there's other episodes where they'll go in the house. If there's any pictures of family members, they're blurred out for their protection. You walk into Nate's house, what do we see? His kid above the fireplace. Not blurred out. Why? Because it's theatrical. It's theater. There's no danger to protect them, to protect anybody from the millions of people because they are actors playing in a film that seems like real life, but it's not. Just because it's on body camera footage, it doesn't make it real. How many police officer shows do you see when it's got the Axum body camera footage timestamp up top? Does that make it real? Do people go, oh, I'm watching The Rookie, and this must be real life, right? No, it's not. It's theater. But people can't seem to grasp it because they think it's coming from the government or it's coming from Frederick Police Department or the CBI in the news, so it must be real. No, it doesn't have to be. And I've proven why it doesn't have to be why. With that Smith-Munt Modernization Act of 2012 that made it legal for the mainstream media and the U.S. government to push propaganda and lie to the public. They can literally fabricate any news story they want to. Their little heart's desire. Whether it be a person being decapitated, like I showed Naomi Wolf talking about in my last live stream, a skier being decapitated, or a homicide case, a quadruple homicide case, or the Gabby Petito case. They can legally do it with no repercussions because of that Smith-Munt Modernization Act. Now, they were pushing propaganda. They've been doing it for years through the media and through television, and the government has. But before, there was a law where you could only do it on foreign audiences. But they were still doing it illegally. Doesn't matter. It's the government. But now they can legally do it with that Smith-Munt Act of 2012 with no repercussions. It can't lead back to them. And it's also funded. And who is it funded by? The American public. The taxpayers. So when all this we're seeing here, you're paying for. Not only are you paying for it, but you're being duped at the same time.
You'd think they were here, the kids or someone would respond.
Because it's not real.
You hear some kind of noise.
All the FBI, all the resources out searching for Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, the taxpayers are paying for that. And they're being duped. So any person that knows this or understands that should be infuriated by it. The fact that your hard-earned money is being spent on you being duped. Let's try to process that. So again, I'm not just saying that they're fake, that you're being duped. Just believe me. I'm providing evidence to back up what I'm saying with this Smith-Munt Act. And I've showed several resources that are speaking out about it and talking about the same thing that I am. It's a real act. It's a real bill, and it was passed in 2012, and it did legally make it, or it made it legal for the mainstream media and the U.S. government to lie to the public about whatever they want in order to sway opinions and push propaganda and for several different motives. It's all going to be, every single story is going to be a different motive. It's for the most part, but a lot of times it's to sway emotions and opinions of the public in order to get them to do something that the government wants them to do. So not only And I'm sorry, I still can't see the chat. I have to, and my phone screen keeps going out. But so not only do they blur the faces of victims and victims' family or anybody that's like a lot of the times in the, like, there was one that I just watched a couple nights ago. This guy was being accused of murdering his cousin point blank, and they caught him on videotape. They already knew it was him. They just had to find him. They just had to confirm his, that it was actually that was the time frame that he was at his cousin's house. Yada yada. So now the girlfriend was questioned. Her face was blurred out when she was being interviewed. When they go into the house, like I said, anytime there's personal pictures of family members, they're blurred out for their protection. Why was Nate's kid's picture not blurred out? Why was Madison Atkinson and Nicholas Atkinson and the neighbor kids' faces not blurred out for their protection? You're talking about releasing this footage to millions of people. Why was no one protected? Because there's no threat to protect anyone from. That's why when you see body cam footage in the TV shows that have the Axum body, no one's faces are blurred out because it's theater, you guys. It's theatrical. You don't need to blur out their faces because that they want to capture an audience. You can't do that by blurring out someone's faces in a fictional TV show. And it's fictional, so there's no threat to protect anything. There's no real killers or terrorists to protect these people from. But I mean, look at Coonrod's not wearing gloves. He's just barely opening up the shower curtain. He doesn't even bother to look under beds. He's having Chris and these other people look for shenanigans. I mean, it's just, think about it, you guys. It's not real life. And the fact that people would just believe this because it's on a body cam footage boggles my mind. And again, I know that's hard for people to grasp, but that's why I bring up that Smith-Mundt Act. And that's why I bring up comparisons in these TV shows. And again, I'm not one to say, hey, go watch television, because I don't like television because of all the propaganda and distraction in it. But like I said, these murder tape shows and these Discover ID shows, they're going to be the closest thing you're going to get to real life investigations. And you can compare it to Chris Watts and Gabby Petito and Summer Wells. And you can see that it's not real life. It's not what happens in an investigation. How does he know that, Coonrod know that there's not someone hiding in the basement here or anybody upstairs and they're not going to come out and potentially harm anybody else that's in the house? It's like they almost know that there's no threat. Does that make sense? Like, so Coonrod already in the back of his mind knew that there's no threat. So, hey, come on in, guys. I don't need to look everywhere. I don't need to pull my gun out and make sure that Shanann wasn't bombarded by someone when she opened the door and they locked the door behind her. And that he's got her mouth covered or whatever, and the girl's mouth's covered and tied up. You just don't know. But I'm not seeing that in the Chris Watts footage, like I see in the murder tape show. Hey, Isabella. Yeah, that was weird too. I don't know, the whole Nick touching all the light fixtures. Very strange. But I mean, it's just not real life. It's not. I mean, people just walking around aimlessly. Coonrod doesn't even bother to go, like I said, into the main bedroom until much, much later. It's just, when I see in that episode where they clear all the rooms to make sure that there's no threat, why are we not seeing that in Chris Watts? It's the same scenario. Missing sister, can't get a hold of her. Welfare check, just like Shanann and the girls. She's nowhere to be found in the house, but you don't see these officers touching everything. You don't see them, letting the neighbor, the friend in because she's worried, because he does not know what they are walking into. Regardless if all the doors are locked or if there doesn't seem to be a threat. So again, why does it seem like they already knew that there was going to be no threat inside and that Shanann was not going to be there? And why aren't we seeing hysteria from anybody? Like, why aren't they asking questions? Okay, she's obviously not here. What can we do to find my friend? Where is she? What is going on here? Chris, there's no sense of urgency. Look, and then Nick's walking around with his arms crossed. Madison's playing in the playroom. Nicole Atkinson looks a little bit worried, but it's not normal behavior that I would, if that were me, and I was truly that worried about Shanann, if Shanann was my friend, I would have ran in that house, even though Coonrod should not have let me, because that's just, like I just already talked about that. I would be running in that house going, Shanann, Bella, Cece, where are you guys here? Hello? Are you guys okay? Why don't we see that sense of urgency from anybody involved? And I totally understand that, Vincina, but like and I mentioned this earlier, is that it doesn't matter if it's a small time or just a nothing to do thing. There's still protocol. You still have to. You don't know what you're walking into. It doesn't matter if it's just Nicole Atkinson calling and saying, "Hey, I'm just worried about my friend." This is the TV show that I'm talking about is the exact same scenario, except his sister didn't talk to her for 5 days. Right? Or a couple days, so he's worried. There was no sign of a break-in. All that was the back door was open, but they have to consider every scenario. And not only that, but this house did become a crime scene, and no protocol was taken, or no measures were taken to protect any potential evidence in case it was a crime scene. Why? Because it's theater. It's not real life. Yeah, aimless and lackadaisical. Exactly. Like, where is the sense of urgency? Everyone's just walking around. And of course, Nicole Atkinson's got her Thrive patches on. Promote Thrive, promote Thrive. She's got one on her chest, one on her arm. I mean, come on. Give me a break. And I try to be respectful, but I'm to the point 3.5 years later where I screw respectful. Okay. This is ridiculous. Why are creators still going over the same shit over and over again? Oh, Chris is innocent. Nicole Kessinger is guilty. Troy McCoy's no. It's theater. It's not real. Stop trying to milk these cases for everything they have because they make money. If you really want the truth out there, if you want to get to the bottom of it, then don't mute people like myself. Don't ban me from your channel. Don't tell me that I've fallen off my rail. Okay? Don't half censor me on your channel and say, hey, come up as a guest, but you can't talk about your PSYOP theory. That's bullshit. Okay? It is. And I'm so tired of being banned and muted from every single one of these channels that pretend that they care about the victims, or that they want justice, or they want the truth, because they don't. If they did, they would listen to every perspective and every theory. And they will sit there and say, oh, I'm open-minded. I do. No, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't block me on your channel or mute me because you don't like my theory or it goes against your beliefs. So I'm sorry, but I'm really, really to the point where again, screw being respectful. I have been respectful for the first year to the victims, family members and the victims, or anybody else that may have been affected by the case. But at this point, I have done so much research on this case, and I have provided more than enough evidence to back up my theory as to why this case was orchestrated and why you and everybody else have been duped. And even myself, I did not know that this case was orchestrated at the beginning. I did not know that. But I eventually started to see those red flags that I talk about and I tell you guys about, that they use over and over and over again in these orchestrated events. And if you remember them and if you listen to what I say, I would be very, very surprised if you will not be able to spot these very easily in the future. I'm doing this so that you don't get duped anymore. I'm not doing it for any other reason. And I don't want to be duped anymore. I don't want my family to be affected by these cases anymore. I don't want to lose my rights over these school shootings anymore, or like, to have guns taken away and ways to protect our families with. I don't want that. I don't want laws being passed. So if you don't want your rights to be taken away, if you don't want your free speech to be taken away, if you don't want to be censored, then you will listen to what I'm saying and you will hear me out, and don't just discredit everything I'm saying because it might sound crazy to you. But again, I'm not just pulling the shit out of my ass. I'm providing receipts and as much as I can as to why stuff does not add up with these cases. And not all cases, but specifically the ones that do not add up. Specifically the ones that get so much mainstream media attention. Specifically the ones that look theatrical. Specifically the ones that have many inconsistencies, and specifically the tragic ones that they like to use to sway the emotions of the public. And for several other motives as well. But it's very frustrating for me because I do not have a team to back me up. I don't have my other fellow true crime creators to back me up in what I'm saying. They like to half censor me, like I said, and mute me because they think I'm being disrespectful to the victims because it goes against their whole belief and their narrative. Again, if you want the truth and if you want to know what really happened with this case, I don't have all the answers for this case, but at least I can sleep at night. At least I'm not like affected by this case every single day, and I'm not racking my brain trying to figure out who did what and who did this and who, like, I don't need to, thankfully, because I'm able to see this case and these other cases for what they really are because I have done my research. I have done several years of research and listened and had an open mind and listened to people like Ole Damagard and David Icke and other channel creators who have done their research on these cases. I don't think a lot of people realize that there's orchestrated events in true crime. I didn't even realize that, and that's why I was not able to spot it right away. I truly believed that it was real. I truly believed at the beginning that there was a cover-up by the Frederick Police Department and the CBI until I started to notice the other characteristics from other events. And although they were characteristics from school shootings and mass shootings and terrorist attacks and Capitol riots and other things, like bigger ones, it didn't matter because I was still seeing the same characteristics that they use, regardless if it's a homicide case in true crime or if it's like, again, a mass shooting like the Las Vegas shooting that I've compared in several times and made a video about, comparing the characteristics and the connections.
You guys have any kind of issues, marital issues, or?
But I'm pretty much I've been by myself for 3 years now. I don't have support of my other, like I said, true crime channels. I don't. Because they don't want to hear what I have to say. Either because they have their own beliefs, like I said, or maybe they know. Maybe they agree with what I'm saying, but they're not going to come out and say, oh yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Megan. Because where would their content go? Where would their money go? Well, they wouldn't be able to make money because, nobody wants to hear, hey, you've been duped in this Chris Watts case. You've been led to believe that this whole thing's real. And some of you cried at night, or, it's affected you emotionally, or you spent 3 years researching the case and you've come up with nothing except for theory after theory after theory. I have never changed my theory once. Because I'm confident in what I'm saying, and I don't need to go through that discovery again. Even if it were real, you're dealing with cherry-picked information from a homicide case, and we don't even know if that information is factual. So you can go over that discovery as many times as you want. You can watch this body cam footage and Nate's footage and the interviews and listen to them as many times as they want. But you're not going to solve this case. It was not meant to be solved. And even if it was real, like I said, you're only working with half of the evidence and half of the information. It would be impossible. Even if it was a cover-up by Anadarko or the FBI or the CBI. And it doesn't matter. you're not going to find your answers. And it's done that way for a reason. It's the whole psychological aspect of it. It's not meant to be solved. If this was a real case and with as much transparency as they gave us, even though it wasn't a lot still, the fact that he pled guilty or he confessed and then it was just an open and shut case, why are there so many holes and why does nothing add up? It should be open and shut with no inconsistencies. If this were a real case and if the CBI and Frederick Police Department did what they were supposed to do. And you don't see them coming out and answering questions. The DA Rourke is supposed to have the public's best interest in mind, right? Clearly he doesn't, or he would answer questions about Nicole Kessinger, and he wouldn't be a dick, right? He would answer all these questions as why shit doesn't add up. The family members would be demanding answers from DA Rourke, saying, why is Shanann and the girls no longer here? And why are there so many flaws and holes in your investigation, DA Rourke, Frederick Police Department? But no, they're too busy on social media causing division and trying to convince people on social media, of all people, that there's no conspiracy and there's no cover-up. Why? Why aren't we seeing the behavior that we should see from real victims' family members? Sadness and, just distraught and we're not seeing that. They're too busy on social media trying to cause chaos and confuse people, say, hey, talk about the case, don't talk about the case, even though we're going to release our daughters or keep our daughter's Facebook account public, but hey, you're not allowed to talk about her. No, it's not the way shit works, okay? If you don't want people to talk about your daughter, don't keep her Facebook account profile account public, and don't stream the funeral live for everyone to see, and don't go on Dr. Phil and publicize the case if you don't want people to talk about a highly publicized case. The Ruseks and the Watts contradict themselves every single day, and the fact that they play the whole victim card is bullshit. But that's what they do, because if you attack Nicole Atkinson, or because she's supposed to be a hero, or if you attack the Ruseks or the Watts, they're the victims, right? How dare you? Well, it doesn't matter if you're a victim or not. I'm going to call you out if you contradict yourself over and over and over again. That's just the way it works for me. Sorry. Victim or not. Hey, Amy. Sorry, I went on a little rant there. Hey, Maze. I'm just scrolling up here. Yeah, they're all connected, Stephanie. Blackstone, the FX network that airs American Horror Story. What are the odds of that? Pretty weird. And Blackstone owns Vivint. Yeah, so. Yeah, May's painting, exactly. The real cases do not get all this mainstream media attention. And I ask all the time, why is that? It's because there's a reason for it. It's a reason. I mean, look, like, don't even watch this with sound. We're watching a movie, essentially. We are literally watching a movie unfold right here.
What days does she typically do work? Every day.
So your homework, you guys, is to go and watch the murder tapes
What was the name of the company?
and compare it to the Chris Watts case and the Gabby Petito case.
Where are they based out of?
And thank you, Amy. Yeah, I appreciate that very much. Hey, Chris.
Does she have someone that she reports to, though?
And they do want drama on social media. And they, the Ruseks, they have motives behind what they're doing. And I'm not going to get into that because it gets me all worked up. But, it's just, why is it that nothing is done by the books? Why is it doesn't add up? No, Stephanie, he doesn't. That's another thing. He looks like he just got 8 hours of sleep the night before. It doesn't look like he murdered his entire family. Another thing that I mentioned in the live stream that I did last night, I set it to private just because I was going to redo it anyways today. But with Gabby Petito, I knew right away that case was orchestrated. It was just so over the top, so theatrical. And not only that, but for something specific that I noticed with that body cam footage and when the police officer did that routine stop. He says on his radio that he was suspicious that the driver, Brian, was under the influence because he was swerving. Oh, I just refreshed and my chat is back. Perfect. Okay. Wish I would have thought of that like a while ago, but that's okay. So it's just he gets on his radio and he says that he believes that the driver's under some sort of influence, whether it be alcohol or drugs. Now, when have you ever been pulled over before? If you've been pulled over before, what's the first thing they say to you when they walk up to the window? License and registration, please, right? Oh, here, I want to pause this real quick because I want to show you the perfect example of Duper's Delight. And then I'll get to my point. Look at that. Look at his face. Is that not like Duper's Delight? I mean, give me a break. This is someone who is not a narcissist, serial killer, or not serial killer, but murderer. This is someone who knows that is either, well, one, that he's a bad actor. Two, that he's fooling millions of people. Okay? This is not a face of a killer. Or a covert narcissist. This is someone who is showing a perfect example of Duper's Delight that we see all the time with crisis actors. Hey, Mrs. Bendover. I love your name. It's funny. All right. So I just want to pause that there. I mean, look at this. He's trying to compose himself. Like, I don't think he probably doesn't even know that he's smiling right now. That's what happens. Again, it's called Duper's Delight. So when the officer pulls over Brian, why doesn't the first thing, number one, he goes over to Gabby's side. He doesn't go to Brian's side and say, license and registration, turn off the vehicle, whatever. He doesn't even ask for license and registration. I don't even think he asked for registration. He doesn't even ask for Brian Laundrie's identification or Gabby's until like 20 minutes into the body camera footage. Why? In another one of those episodes on Murder Tapes that I watched the other night, they specifically stated that when they pull over somebody, and especially if they believe that they're dangerous, maybe not in this scenario, but they always tell the driver to get out first. And then they will proceed to get the passenger or any other passengers out of the vehicle. They specifically state that. But no, we don't see that in the Gabby Petito body cam footage. We see the police officer go to Gabby's side, take Gabby out of the vehicle, leave Brian in the vehicle with the keys in the vehicle where he could like speed away, right? Or drive away or do whatever, grab a gun, doesn't matter. That's another one of those things where they have to consider all possibilities. Just because it's he's only suspected of being maybe intoxicated, that doesn't mean he doesn't have a gun in the car. That doesn't mean that he's not a threat. That's why you ask for license and registration, so that you can do a background check. Make sure that this person is potentially not a threat. Why don't we see that in the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie body cam footage? Instead, we get a police officer that says, oh, you're crying, you're upset. Why don't you come sit in my police car? And would you like a bottled water? I've never had a police officer offer me a bottled water when I've been pulled over. Even if I was like crying and upset or something. Okay? I've never had them do that. Or say, oh, can I put you up in a nice hotel, young lady? No. That's not how it works. Like, you arrest both of them. Doesn't matter. If it's like domestic dispute, it's like if you guys can't figure it out, then you guys are both going going to jail. Like, you don't put her up in a Hilton, okay? It's not real life. So not only does he not ask for body cam footage, not only does he not ask for license and registration, he takes Gabby out of the vehicle first, leaves the driver in, who is, again, suspected of drinking or being under the influence of something, and he leaves Brian Laundrie in the front seat with the keys in the car. Like, how is that real life, you guys? And I try not to laugh, but it's just so ridiculous. And why don't more people question that? Because we were watching a show. Like, nothing, like, that's the thing with these orchestrated events. They can make so many mistakes, and they don't have to do anything by the books or do protocol, because the majority of people and the majority of the public will literally hear it on the news and believe it. They will see it on a government body cam footage, and they will believe it because it's coming from our government. The last people you should trust is the government and the mainstream media. Okay? The mainstream media doesn't provide you with sources like I do for what they're saying. They don't back up their news stories. Or, like, if anybody calls and say, hey, can you give me the receipts for what you're saying about this homicide? No, they don't have to, because they can legally lie to you with that Smith Modernization Act. So, no one's asking me for receipts, but I'm giving them to you because I feel it's important to back up what I'm saying. Especially if I'm, claiming them to be factual. Nobody questions these, the majority of people don't question these, their favorite true crime channels that are saying, oh, all these theories or whatever. And it doesn't matter even if you say, in my opinion, just because you say in my opinion doesn't make it factual or doesn't make it okay. You're still swaying opinions of your viewers with all your crazy theories. I mean, it's okay to have theories, but I mean, provide some facts and some evidence to back up what you're saying. Don't just say, hey, sound confident and say, hey, that's Nicole Kessinger and Nate's footage.
Any kind of behavioral changes, anything like that recently?
And then, people just believe it because the person sounds confident. Hey, Justice. And thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And shush, Swamp Lover. Yeah, in maze painting, that's a good point. So, and I don't have this on my, I'll probably add this to my list because in a future live stream, I'm going to put on the screen all the characteristics of a PSYOP or like a false flag or orchestrated event that I talk about all the time, that I want you guys to really, dang, have I been rambling that long? All right. That I've been talking about for a very long time now. I'll turn the chat back on. I don't know if it's going to work, but one of those, there's usually like, the people that are involved will either have some sort of like CIA, FBI background, or they'll know someone, or they'll have some sort of military background. And I know that several people have mentioned that, Nicole Kessinger spoke as though she was like kind of military, like military references. So I would not be surprised. And the fact that with North Carolina and it's right next to, what is it? Fort Bragg. I can't remember what fort is. It'll come to me. But, it's just all very interesting. Them having the USSA bank, which is a military bank for military members. And if you'll notice too, one of the things is, even if it's not a federal case, you'll always see the FBI or just like the CBI will get involved, even though it's not a federal case. For whatever reason, I don't know why that is, but it happens. Just like the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito case. All of the FBI was involved. I don't know how they consider or how a case becomes federal exactly, but it's just one of those characteristics that I noticed. The FBI, just like with the Las Vegas shooting, the FBI got involved. Chris Watts was a toilet scrubber? Probably. And now there's a few people that brought up the fact that like, oh well, the military cannot legally use psyops. The actual military can't use psyops against the public. Now, when I say like a psychological operation or psyops, I'm not talking military. So like that clip that I played or that video that I made of that, maybe I could play that. Maybe I'll play that real quick. But of the Anadarko executive talking about using military psyops against citizens. Now, it's not the military that's doing it. It's Anadarko or other organizations like police departments that are using psyop-like tactics against the public. Yeah, Mandalay Bay was where the shooter was, supposedly, Mrs. Bendover. But they're just using. It's not the military that's doing these orchestrated events. So when I say psyop, it's whoever's orchestrating them. They're using psyop-like tactics. So they're taking tactics from the military and using them against the public. So it's not necessarily the actual like CIA or the military using it against us. So I just wanted to clarify that. But I want to play that first part for you because it's very interesting that this Anadarko executive was actually talking about using psyop-like tactics against people in Colorado to sway the opinions of anti-frackers. Yeah, me too, round and round. I would not be surprised. They actually reuse actors as well as the same names. I've mentioned before, you have Shannon Watts, who became a huge gun control activist after Sandy Hook. And now you have Shanann Watts, but remember, her name was Shannon before she changed it to Shanann in another one of these orchestrated events. So, very interesting. And I'm sure most of you have probably seen this, but it's okay to watch again. It's important. If I can find it. I think so. I really do think so, Stephanie. I do think that they are the same person. The guy that was the police officer at the Capitol riot. Yeah, but I posted that picture and a lot of people are skeptical. But the thing is you're talking 3 years ago. People can change. There's just so much there's so much easy ways to fool people, and just, you can put on prosthetic. It's just by simply like shaving someone's, like a guy's beard or whatever, can make him look a lot different than he is, right? Especially if you're used to, like, for 3 years seeing someone with a beard and they shave it, they might look kind of different, you know? Oh, cool, Mrs. Bendover. That'll be fun. Yeah. They actually closed that floor. I don't think they're ever going to open it again. Go figure. They don't want anybody up there checking out their fake crime scene, so. But I'm pretty sure that nobody can stay on that floor anymore. Or at least after it happened. It might be back open now. All right, let me find that video. Here you go. This is one of my older videos, so I have to scroll down quite a bit. Just bear with me. A friend of mine lives in Las Vegas. She swears that shooting must have been real because of her friends. Oh, because one of her friends was there and someone near her got shot. Yeah, it's all hearsay, even then. It doesn't make it real. All right. So again, some of you may have seen this already, but it doesn't hurt to watch it again. All right, let me just center this real quick because that'll bother me. All right, here we go.
So, again, this is all industry stuff. Let's talk about this plan and how we executed our media plan. If you're a PR representative in this industry, in this room today, I recommend you do three things. These are three things that I've read recently that are pretty interesting to me. Download the U.S. Army/Marine Corps Counterinsurgency Manual, because we are dealing with an insurgency. There's a lot of good lessons in there, and coming from a military background, I've found the insight in that extremely remarkable. With that said, there's a course provided by Harvard and MIT twice a year. It's called Dealing with an Angry Public.
I know that's a little small, so I just want to read that for you guys. So this is taken right out of the manual that he's speaking about, the counterinsurgency manual. It says the mission of a PSYOP is to influence the behavior of, now it said foreign audiences, but remember what I mentioned earlier about how that original Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 made it illegal to push propaganda on U.S. citizens and only only on foreign soil. Now that Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 made it reverse that and made it legal for them to push propaganda, psyops, false flags onto U.S. citizens and sway opinions. So I actually just crossed out foreign because we're not talking about foreign audiences anymore. We're talking about U.S. citizens, domestic, okay? The mission of a PSYOP is to influence the behavior of target audiences to support U.S. national objectives. PSYOPs accomplishes this by conveying selected information and advising on actions that influence the emotions, motives, objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of audiences. Behavioral change is at the root of the PSYOP mission, although concerned with the mental processes of the target audience. Okay? Now again, we're talking about military PSYOPs, but they're taking tactics from the military and these psychological operations, the government and the mainstream media, and using those tactics. And now, specifically in this video, this Matt Carmichael is talking at this conference, not knowing that he's being recorded, and talking to other oil executives and telling them that they're actually using these psychological operation tactics or PSYOP tactics on, royalty holders or any of the citizens to sway their opinions on fracking, pretty much.
Take that course and tie back to the Army and Marine Corps Counterinsurgency Manual is that a lot of the officers in our military are attending this course. It gives you the tools, it gives you the media tools on how to deal with a lot of the
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop it because I don't know why the sound, and this happened to me last time, I don't know why the sound is not matching up with the video. So that's pointless. If you guys aren't familiar with this video, I highly encourage you guys to watch it. It's Chris Watts, Where the Murder is a Distraction. It's one of my older videos. Here, I'll put the link in the chat, actually. Because it's pointless playing it if it's not even going to match up. So, close that. All right. Hey, Marie. Yeah, I know. And several people have said that, Marie, as far as like the ages of everybody, specifically Chris and Shanann. And that could be very well the case, to throw people off for sure. And so that way they can end up, maybe going out in public again. You don't, who knows? But 33 is significant, of course, because of the symbolism and the numerology and that they like to throw in there with all these cases, because that's what they're all about. It's about their symbolism. So, oh, and yeah, Stephanie, I agree as well. But, and yeah, Sandra, I haven't heard of the Halderson case in Wisconsin. I'll have to look into that for sure. So yeah, sorry about the video. I don't know why the sound's not matching up with the video screen, but it's always something, of course. But I like to keep these live streams, I'm going to try to keep them under 2 hours, because I know that when people watch the replays, they don't like them being too long and kind of more straight to the point. So I think I will end it there. And I appreciate everyone for being here, and for my moderators. Thank you. I think that's Swamp Lover, the only moderator. Where is all my moderators? But no, I appreciate everyone being here, and I will continue to cover the Watts case, even though I don't want to. But like, again, you're not going to see me talking about the theories over and over again. I'm never going to change my theory. I'm confident in what I'm saying, and the information I put out there. So, but I will continue to go over and talk to go over the important things that I've been going over. And, in case there's new people that come in, but not only that, for you guys, go over those characteristics again so they can get them stuck in your head and remember them, so that you can use these, kind of like tactics in the future, and look out for those red flags and characteristics, so that, because they're going to keep happening. It's only time will tell until the next Gabby Petito case, or the next Chris Watts case. Or Summer Wells case. But, so they're going to continue to keep happening, because like I said, they can legally do it, and it works, and they use it to, again, sway emotions, sway opinions, push laws, take away rights, free speech, whatever. It's always going to change depending on that specific case. So, but I want to provide this information with you guys so that you guys can use it in the future. And once you remember, you'll be able to spot the cases so much easier once you're aware of what's going on. And that way you won't be duped in the future anymore. Just like I wasn't, like I said in the beginning, but now that I know that they're pulling this shit in these true crime cases, I'm not going to be duped anymore. I refuse to. So, and I don't want you guys to be either. And so that's why I'm doing this. And, like I said, I'll continue to do live streams when more information comes out about Gabby Petito that doesn't add up, or the new case that's going to happen, like I said, in the future. I will be covering those. And again, I really, really encourage you guys to go to DLive, because like I said, I can play more videos that back up what I'm saying, and provide a little bit more resources to you guys for to what I'm saying. Hey, Jenna. So again, thank you everyone for being here, and I'll see you guys next time.